This summary of the science of self-discipline, the willpower, mental toughness, and self-control to resist temptation and achieve your goals. Live a Disciplined Life by Peter Hollins is about to begin. Enjoy. Key point 1. Self-discipline is more about mindset than genes. Willpower is a key component to following paths free of regrets. It enables us to prioritize crucial issues for our future, stay on track, and relish well-deserved achievements. Discipline equals freedom. Jocko Willink, former Navy SEAL commander. However, maintaining self-control is extremely difficult these days. Indeed, scientists do in-depth research on willpower. But whenever they come up with a practical discovery, some marketers use it to trick their customers into buying particular products. For example, why do supermarkets place snacks near checkout lanes? That's because they know that after resisting shelves of junk food, customers will easily succumb to buying something unhealthy at the register. Awareness of our psychological peculiarities allows us to reach our goals and withstand marketers' manipulations. Yet, unfortunately, the majority of us still count on misconceptions about self-control. Lack of discipline stems from incorrect assumptions about ourselves, not laziness or disorganization. Believing willpower is an inborn trait heads the list of top stereotypes. Indeed, self-control is closely connected to specific areas of the brain: ventral medial prefrontal cortex and dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. It gives some people a genetic predisposition for discipline, but it's not a secret weapon to conquer urges and ensure success. Even with this biological advantage, people could fail. Why? Self-discipline is like a muscle. Exercising it gives noticeable results, while skipping workouts undermines its power. Thus, to reach a high level of self-control, we should become our personal trainers and self-manage our thoughts, motivations, and environment. Acquiring this mindset requires effort and time, but will allow us to maximize our potential. How to do it? Keep up with this summary to learn crucial skills for willpower management and stay on the crest of the self-management wave. Key point 2. How not to waste willpower. Investigating self-discipline from A to Z lays the basis for its efficient application. Yet we still know more about its benefits than its Achilles heel: limitedness. Roy Baumeister theorized willpower depletion only at the end of the 1990s. He drew on an experiment where subjects were offered 2 plates, one with candies and one with bitter radishes. Group A had no constraints, while Group B was told they could only eat the radishes. Afterward, they received a complex puzzle to solve. Having spent their self-discipline on resisting the candies, Group B gave up resolving it almost 2 times faster than Group A. So, if we want to manage willpower successfully, we should primarily deal with its main drainers. The following are some crucial ways to do it. Limit chances for urges to appear. Restraint entails different measures, such as creating shopping lists and circumventing casinos or favorite bars. Avoid multitasking. According to Professor Baba Shiv, diverting attention undermines our self-discipline. In his experiment, Group A had to remember a long number while Group B relaxed. When Shiv offered them fruits and cakes, Group A chose the high-calorie desserts 50% more often than Group B. This study emphasizes the importance of focus. We are more likely to indulge when distracted. Clearing physical and digital clutter enhances concentration and eases self-control by reducing distractions. Manage dopamine-releasing activities. This hormone accounts for pleasant feelings and is vital for establishing habits. So, distractions that release dopamine are challenging to combat. Checking social media notifications is a telling example. But we can use this hormone to our advantage, combining necessary and pleasant activities like exercising and socializing. Make healthy options the default. Let's benefit from our inclination to choose the path of least resistance. We can sign out of social media or leave our devices in another room if we notice we are glued to our phones. This way, we will reach for smartphones only in case of necessity. These are some basic rules that will help us to economize our willpower. We will discover more of them and tools to strengthen our self-discipline soon. Key point 3. Listening to our innermost dreams cultivates self-control. Asking ourselves why we need willpower is the first step to nurturing it. But it's tricky. Although money seems a universal incentive, there is more to motivation than meets the eye. In one research, psychologists Teresa Amabel and Stephen Kramer asked 238 employees to keep a diary and record their feelings during workdays. Having analyzed the results, they concluded that a sense of progress encouraged people to do their best, not perks or promotions. Yet 95% of over 500 managers questioned by Amabel and Kramer underestimated this factor. Although incentives in personal and professional lives vary significantly, all are either extrinsic or intrinsic. The former includes outward signs like positive reinforcement, status, and dopamine seeking. It also entails cases when we strive to avoid rejection, failure, and pain. Intrinsic motivators drive our work from the inside, regardless of others' opinions. These incentives comprise, for example, the following. Autonomy. Suppose we have two groups of illustrators. One received a thorough plan of what they should depict, while the second felt free to interpret the story. Indeed, those who had no constraints and could express themselves in illustrations would be more motivated. Mastery. As lifelong learning is ingrained in ourselves, seeing how our skills sharpen prompts us to work harder. Purpose. We should never underestimate our craving for meaning. We can go a long way by adhering to it. Peter Hollins emphasizes that prosperity goes hand in hand with internal motivation, which allows us to channel all our energy into fulfilling our calling, not proving something to others. If our goals don't seem inspiring, Hollins recommends using the 10x rule, invented by famous sales trainer Grant Cardone. According to this principle, after writing down our aims, we should increase them 10 times. For instance, instead of $20,000, we should long to save $200,000. To achieve these aspirations, we should also multiply our efforts by 10. Shooting for the stars can be an effective remedy to stop selling ourselves short. It may seem inconceivable, but that's exactly what we need. Our thoughts and beliefs led us to the position we have today. If we strive to reach a higher level, we should change our assumptions about ourselves and what is attainable. Many limits exist only in our heads. Having created them, we have the power to replace them. Key point 4. We can do more than we know. Exercising self-discipline. We should learn from people whose lives depend on it. SEALs. Being the U.S. Navy's primary special operations force, these soldiers are prepared to work in various environments, from jungles to the Arctic. Indeed, it's no mean feat to join their ranks, but even more challenging is to complete their training. It requires a particular mindset, not only exceptional skills. One of the most famous of the SEALs principles is the 40% rule. It states that whenever soldiers believe they are physically exhausted or emotionally drained, they have used only 40% of their potential. Pushing themselves further is indispensable for this principle, yet at its core lies self-belief. The latter keeps reminding soldiers that they don't know their full potential. In fact, only a few realize it. Our societal development contributes significantly to leaving us in the dark about our skills. Most of us have all the conveniences at hand and rarely get a chance to test our capabilities. We don't know how much we can do, and the easiest way to discover it is to believe that we can achieve more than we think. The existence of the placebo effect confirms it. In several experiments, patients took, as they believed, painkillers and reported that they felt better. But in fact, they consumed sugar pills or vitamins, which surely couldn't alleviate pain by themselves. How did the medicine help patients then? Because they believed it would. The human brain has approximately 100 billion neurons, as many as stars in the Milky Way, so we should never underestimate our abilities. The 40% rule doesn't mean we must imagine ourselves heroes from Marvel movies. Instead, we should start with small steps. For example, persuading ourselves to add one more paragraph before taking a break or doing 1 or 2 more push-ups if we feel exhausted. With each of these efforts, our limits will increase. Soon, we won't notice how our bar will be much higher. Did you know? Mark Devine, a former Navy SEAL, has popularized the box breathing technique to calm down and tap into self-control. It comprises 4 steps, each lasting 4 seconds. Inhaling, holding the breath, exhaling, and holding the breath. Key point 5. simple tips to stay motivated longer. We receive immense leverage for success when we adjust scientific findings on willpower to our daily needs. For example, researchers calculated that marathon participants run the last mile faster than previous ones. It seems illogical. They must have been exhausted at that point. Although they indeed were, the goal proximity principle enabled their velocity. The closer they were to their aims, the more effort they put into achieving them. How can we use this finding for our benefit? We can establish milestones on our path to the dream and track progress toward each. It will give us a motivation boost, economizing our willpower. Monitoring up-to-the-minute discoveries in psychology and neuroscience is a habit of high achievers. Here are some other principles that can increase our self-discipline. Parkinson's Law. Observing bureaucracy, historian Cyril Parkinson noticed that officials worked on tasks until the deadline. The more time they received, the longer it took them to finish. This law applies to many fields. Thus, instead of spending time complicating our work, we can set deadlines for ourselves and execute tasks earlier. The endowed progress effect. In one experiment, clients of a car washing company received different loyalty cards. A card for the first group had 8 spaces to be stamped, while the second group's cards had 10 slots with 2 already marked. 8 company stamps, meaning 8 washes, would provide a free car wash in both cases. After nearly a year, researchers found that clients from the second group visited this company more often, feeling they would receive a free service sooner. What does it mean for self-discipline? Our motivation increases when we don't start from scratch. Thus, each time we begin something new, let's recall what advantages we already have. For example, suppose we want to play the violin. Maybe we have learned the notes before or used to practice cello. All count as our endowed progress. Effort-based thinking. It's crucial to remember that we can't control everything. Sometimes, despite all our attempts, we don't reach a desirable result. To avoid disappointment, we should concentrate on what we have done and try to repeat it in more favorable circumstances. Key point 6. Proper networking can boost our willpower. The social environment affects our self-discipline significantly. Studies show that our brains function in similar ways when we think about ourselves and our close friends or family, suggesting that we naturally absorb the behaviors of those around us. Others' positive patterns strengthen our willpower, while negative ones may undermine it. These findings encourage us to choose carefully who we talk to and for how long. For example, people with obese friends are almost twice as likely to have excess weight than their opposites. We can look at this data from a different perspective. Knowing someone with the same problems as ours means we have a potential ally on our path to self-development. For instance, we can work out together. To maximize the positive effect, we should praise even the slightest signs of each other's progress. According to researchers from the University of Pittsburgh, supportive partners increase the probability of maintaining their weight loss from 24% to 66%. Impressive, isn't it? Rewarding ourselves is crucial, but we shouldn't give in to temptation. Even if our friends are stingy with compliments, we will still achieve more together. The mere fact of being watched encourages us to train harder. Besides, postponing our workouts when we know that others are waiting for us will be embarrassing. A similar way to pressure ourselves is by using apps that post our training results online, making them available for our friends. Paradoxically, telling others about our plans has the opposite effect. As Professor Peter Gollwitzer has discovered, those who don't breathe the word of their aspirations are more likely to fulfill them. Why? In this case, the praise is the culprit. We feel like we have already achieved our goals when we receive early congratulations, which undermines our self-discipline. Moreover, we can fall into this trap by ourselves. Although there is nothing wrong with acknowledging our achievements, we shouldn't use them as excuses. The research of the University of Chicago exemplifies this principle. In one experiment, when participants on a diet learned of their successful results, over 80% rewarded themselves and chose chocolate over apples as a snack. Did you know? Having a role model is one more way to boost motivation. Key point 7. The core of self-discipline is strategic planning. Willpower rests on long-term thinking, which is simultaneously its advantage and disadvantage. On the one hand, like the North Star, it indicates our way to ourselves through all the storms of daily challenges. On the other hand, we can wait for years to see the fruits of our efforts. Thus, we should constantly remind ourselves why we resist temptations and for whom. Scientists have revealed that brains react similarly whether we talk about the future of others or our own. We don't feel an emotional connection even with our 10-year-older self, which complicates sacrificing momentous pleasures for a distant goal. Fortunately, this principle works inversely. We are more eager to invest in what lies ahead when we can clearly imagine our future. Researchers confirm it. In one experiment, VR players had avatars either with their current photo or their aged version. When participants were asked how they would spend $1,000, those who had older avatars selected the option, put into a pension account 2 times more often. We can also visualize our future selves. Aging apps will be helpful for this aim. Or we can ask ourselves what our decision will mean for us in 10 minutes, hours, days, and years. Opportunities lie behind most fears. So let's use willpower as a way from our comfort zones. Self-discipline isn't the easiest, but correct option. By choosing the same paths and falling into temptation, we will run in circles instead of approaching our aims. Indeed, leaving our comfort zone may seem scary, but its benefits are worth it, as the story of entrepreneur Jia Zheng shows. Believing fear of rejection impedes his achievements, Zheng devised a unique 100-day program to overcome it. In his TED Talk, he explains how he turned to strangers with ridiculous requests, such as borrowing massive sums of money. With each refusal, he felt more confident and determined. So, when he decided to fulfill his lifelong dream and become a professor, 2 rejections from the University of Texas didn't stop him. With his 3rd try, he gained the job. Everybody has different fears, insecurities, and discomforts. But a lot of people go through their life avoiding those things, and thus limiting their own potential. Peter Hollins. Conclusion. Choosing between easy and necessary paths is fundamental for shaping our personal and professional lives. However challenging this task seems, self-discipline can enable us to make correct decisions. Yet first, we need to nurture it. Many people associate willpower with pushing ourselves to the limits. But we can wear ourselves out by adhering to this definition. So instead, we should treat it as a muscle we can train. This way, we will channel our energy spent blaming ourselves into figuring out what strengthens and undermines our self-discipline. By managing it efficiently, we can become high achievers. At the same time, let's be honest with ourselves. Progress takes time. As we don't live in a vacuum, social expectations, others' patterns, psychological traumas, and many other factors affect our decisions. Navigating them takes much effort. So let's understand that self-control is also a journey. We will handle it more easily by setting milestones and tracking even minor progress. The following questions will ensure we don't deviate from the right path. Are we aware of the choices we make? Do we realize our goals clearly? What are our main drainers of willpower, and how can we minimize them? Which tools that increase self-control work the best for us? Step by step, we will form new habits to sustain our willpower. Try this. Limit the most frequent distractions. For instance, switch off notifications from social media. Imagine yourself in 10 years. What would you like to have, and what kind of person you want to become? Turn these dreams into your goals. Dig deep to understand the causes of your self-sabotaging thoughts and behavior. Instead of thinking you are lazy, figure out why certain activities fail to motivate you. Summary complete. Please take a moment to rate it, so we can help you grow in the best way possible.